The rancher's boots crunched against the gravel as twilight bled across the horizon. Dust swirled low in the air, the kind that clung to a man's coat after a long ride. In his arms he carried a heavy blanket, its weight more than cloth alone. He stepped into the dim light of his barn, lantern swaying from a nail, shadows stretching long against the timbered walls. He set the bundle down on a wooden cot. The blanket shifted. A frail hand slipped free, pale as bone. His chest tightened. Slowly, with trembling fingers, he peeled the blanket back. Beneath it lay a young woman. Her face was bruised purple and blue, her lip cracked, eyes swollen from weeping. She drew a shallow breath and whispered, broken and trembling, "Hide." "Hide this broken shell!" The rancher staggered back, his hat tumbling to the dirt. Horror gripped him, not just at the sight of her battered body, but at the cruelty behind it. No soul deserved to be discarded so carelessly, not out here where life was already so hard. He reached for the lantern, holding it closer. The light trembled in his hand, flickering across her wounds. The stench of whiskey and dust still clung to her torn dress. Whoever had done this hadn't just wanted her gone, they wanted her erased. The rancher knelt beside her, voice low and steady, though it quaked with fury inside. "Who did this to you?" Her eyes fluttered. A tear streaked down through the grime on her cheek. She tried to form a name but choked on it, shaking her head. He pulled a blanket tighter around her shoulders. "You're safe here. I won't let anyone touch you again." Her lips parted, whisper faint as wind through dry grass.
"You can't—"
"He always finds me." The rancher's jaw tightened. He stood slowly, reaching for his rifle leaned against the wall. The lantern's glow caught the iron barrel, cold and unyielding. "Let him come," he muttered. "This land won't bow to men like him." Outside, the desert wind moaned through the fence posts. Inside the barn, silence fell heavy. Two souls bound together now by violence and a vow of protection. The desert had no mercy. By noon, the sun burned white-hot above the endless stretch of sand, each gust of wind carrying blades of grit that cut the skin. She had been dragged out here, tied and bound, thrown like a sack of unwanted grain. The outlaw laughed as he tightened the knots around her wrists. His breath reeked of whiskey, his eyes bloodshot and cruel. "No man's gonna waste a drop of water on you," he spat. "Not when the buzzards'll do it for free." He yanked the gag across her mouth, shoved her down, and rode away, boots kicking up a trail of dust. His horse's hooves faded into the distance, leaving only silence and the hiss of desert wind. She tried to cry out, but the gag stifled her voice. Sweat poured down her face, dripping into the sand. The rope cut deep into her wrists as she writhed, every movement scraping skin raw, time stretched cruelly. The sun baked her skin, lips cracking, tongue thick and dry. She stared up at the sky, vultures circling like shadows that knew her death was near. One landed close, black wings beating, eyes sharp with hunger. With a muffled scream, she kicked weakly at the bird, tears blurring her vision. Her body trembled with exhaustion, every breath a battle. She tried to roll, inch by inch, dragging herself across the burning sand, praying for shade that never came. Her mind fractured between reality and memory, the crack of his slap still ringing in her ears. The words he'd hissed, "You're nothing!" Less than nothing. Darkness pressed at the corners of her eyes. She thought of water, of safety, of a home she barely remembered. But the desert swallowed mercy. At last, with the last strength she had, she whispered through the gag, voice hoarse and broken. "Please." "God, not like this." Her body gave out, cheek pressing into the scorching sand. The vultures closed in, wings rustling, patient. Far away, the faint sound of hooves echoed, steady, determined, coming closer. But she didn't hear them. Her mind slipped into shadow, convinced the desert had claimed her for good. The door to the cabin creaked open, hinges crying against the silence. The rancher stepped inside, his arms straining under the weight of her fragile body. He moved slow, careful as if he carried a glass vessel that might shatter with a single jolt. The room smelled of pine wood and smoke from the fire he'd left smoldering earlier. Shadows flickered on the log walls as he set her down on the cot, the quilt pulled back in haste. He cut the ropes from her wrists, the fibers snapping, leaving angry red grooves across her skin. His jaw clenched at the sight of it. He dipped a rag in a bowl of water and pressed it gently to her face, brushing away sweat and dust. Her eyes fluttered open. For a moment, panic lit within them, wild, frantic, as though she expected another blow. "No," she gasped. Don't send me back." The rancher knelt beside her, voice low, steady, carrying the calm of a man who'd weathered storms. "You're safe here. Ain't nobody coming through that door without answering to me." Her breathing hitched. She gripped the blanket tight around her shoulders, as if wrapping armor around herself. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He always finds me. He won't stop." The rancher's eyes hardened. He poured water into a tin cup, pressing it into her trembling hands. She drank slow, as though every drop hurt going down, yet she didn't let go. "You're stronger than you think," he said, watching her closely. "Ain't no man gonna decide the worth of your soul." She looked at him, tears cutting through the grime on her cheeks. "I'm nothing, just broken." For a moment, silence hung heavy. The only sound was the soft crackle of fire in the hearth. Then the rancher leaned forward, his words sharp as iron. "No, you're alive. That's more than he ever wanted. That's where your strength begins." Outside, the desert wind rattled against the shutters, testing the cabin's walls. Inside, the glow of the lantern pushed the darkness back, small but steady. For the first time, she let her eyes close, not from fear, but from the fragile safety of knowing someone stood guard. The morning sun bled gold over the rooftops of the small frontier town. Hooves clattered on the hard-packed earth as the rancher rode in, slow dust lifting with each step of his weary horse. His hat hung low over his brow, jaw tight, eyes set on the sheriff's office. The townsfolk noticed him right away. A few men leaned against posts outside the saloon, whispering. Women paused with baskets in hand, their gazes sharp, suspicious. News traveled fast in these parts, especially when it carried the stink of scandal. He swung down from his saddle, boots striking dirt with a dull thud. The wooden sign above the office door creaked in the wind. He pushed inside. The sheriff sat behind a desk, polishing a revolver with slow, steady strokes. His eyes, gray and heavy from years of watching the worst of men, lifted to meet the rancher's. "You don't come here unless the matter's serious," the sheriff said. Voice flat, the rancher placed his hat on the desk. "It's worse than serious. A girl's near dead on my cot right now. Beaten, left to die. And I know who did it." The sheriff set the revolver down, leaning forward. "Say his name." The rancher's hand tightened into a fist. "Her stepfather. Drunk, rotten to the bone. He came to my land last night, demanding I hand her back." The sheriff's jaw worked, teeth grinding. He had heard of the man. Every town had such a name, whispered in anger and fear. "You've put yourself in his path," the sheriff muttered. "That's a dangerous place to stand." "I'll stand there," the rancher said. His voice was iron. "But the law has to stand with me. If there's still justice in this county, it has to protect her." The sheriff stared at him for a long moment, the silence thick. Finally, he nodded. "I'll keep an ear to the ground. My deputies and I will be ready when he strikes. But mark me, rancher, men like him, they come hardest when cornered." The rancher gathered his hat, eyes burning with quiet resolve. "Then let him come. He'll find more than he bargained for." Outside, the town buzzed with whispers, but the rancher walked steady to his horse. Justice was a thin line in the west, fragile as a candle flame. But he knew one thing, even a thin flame could drive back the dark. Night dropped hard over the ranch, the kind of black sky where stars burned sharp but gave no comfort. The wind carried a warning, faint at first, then heavier. Hoofbeats, more than one. The young woman stirred where she lay on the cot, clutching the quilt to her chest. "He's here," she whispered, voice breaking. "I can feel him." The rancher moved to the window, lantern low in his hand. Out across the fields, fire danced, torches swaying, carried by riders who whooped and hollered as they closed in. Shadows leapt across the barn, stretching long and wicked. He set the lantern down and lifted his rifle, jaw clenched. "Stay down. No matter what happens, stay down." The gang rode up, circling the cabin like wolves. Horses snorted, hooves drummed against the hard dirt. The outlaw stepfather swung down from his saddle, torch in hand, his grin savage in the firelight. "Come out, rancher," he bellowed. "Give me what's mine, and maybe I'll leave you breathing." The rancher stepped into the doorway, rifle leveled. "She was never yours, not now." "Not ever!" The outlaw spat into the dirt, rage twisting his face. "You think you can steal from me? You think the law cares about her?" He lifted the torch high, fire reflecting in his eyes. "I'll burn this place to the ground." Inside, the girl pressed her face into the quilt, whispering through sobs, "Don't let them take me. Please, God, don't let them take me." The rancher's voice rang like iron. "One step closer, and you'll see how fast a man falls when he plays with fire." For a moment, silence. Then the gang erupted in jeers, circling tighter, smashing fence rails, shouting insults. The outlaw's laugh echoed over the flames. The rancher stood firm, rifle steady, sweat beading on his brow though the night was cold. His heart thundered, but he did not flinch. Behind him, the lantern glowed faintly, the last fragile barrier of hope against the storm outside. The desert wind whipped hard, carrying sparks into the sky. The cabin walls groaned under the pressure of darkness and fire, and still, the rancher did not yield.